Because everybody went to Odsal.
I think that might have been the championship, it wasn't the cup final.
It was the cup final. It was the cup final.
It was played at Wembley.
It was the cup final. In 1943 we played at Odsal.
Your friend's right, they were played over 2 legs in the finals.
That's right. We played it like it was a rugby cup final.
Championship finals over 2 legs at Odsal.
I can't remember.
Oh yes, I was there. I saw him present the cup. I saw him present the cup. And what's more, it was a terrible day, and they were all black. You couldn't tell which one team from the other by the time they finished. Trevor Foster took the cup, he was the captain that day.
I remember when, in the glory days, when it's at the back end of the 1940s, 48, 49, when they were winning at the top, and when they came back from Wembley with the cup, we all went to Bradford, and we were stood on what is Channing Way now, and they came out on the balconies there, and then they got on an open top bus, and a lot of us that lived that side of town, we walked up at the side of them right from Bradford to Odsal, cheering, although we're on Manchester Road, that's what I said, late 1940s. Yeah, but I'd say that's what I remember.
Was anyone surprised by how different it was? Like, what did you think of the changes? Because there's a lot of new builds or things that you were saying that have been got rid of. And
yes, I was amazed. Because that one where there's that suite now at the golf links end, that was all rough ground when I used to go. It wasn't even developed as a proper standing place. I think last time I went in was about mid-70s.
If I were to be honest about it, I would say that Odsal at the moment is what I'd call bitty. There's bits and pieces all around the stadium, rather than being a compact arena.
Certainly a lot better than it was in the 1930s. Well, if you went there, you to get out of a bath when you got off for the dust. Young ladies, you know, in clothing with all cinders. And when it was very dry, dust rose and you were dirty when it was cold.
Oh yeah, it's a lot better than it was.
You went to Odsal in the 30s?
Yeah, later. 38 I went there first.
Does anybody remember Bert's shows?
Oh,
yeah. Dance hall though.
Yeah. No, it got in wartime here.
It's just different. That was the slogan across the building.
Every Sunday night.
Yeah. During the Teddy Boy era in the 60s, they used to say, it sure is just different. Best punch up in town.
Well, what they did.
There was once a riot there, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
Big fight.
Yes.
They were all the
It was known as the
uniforms
diddle, wasn't it?
Diddle,
It was known as the diddle.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
They
it
always
was.
used to say, "Are you going to the diddle?"
Yes, yes.
See, a peculiar thing about that, because the band played it halfway up the wall in like an alcove thing. Do you remember that? Like a, well, it was a bit like a rounded thing, but I don't know if it's more like a box, really. Because it wasn't a dance hall originally, but there were about 5-piece band there, halfway up the blooming wall.
I used to play piano there.
Yeah.
so has anyone got any sort of longer memories that they want to share with John and Martin?
Yes, about the stadium.
Yeah, the first time I went, probably must have been just after the war. The Northern Command, we were playing somebody. You lads might remember it.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'd never been to a rugby match before. I'd only ever been to football. And they kicked a goal. And they said it's 2-0. I'm asking my dad, what? You know, why is it 2-0? They've only scored once. So, and another memory is.
Alex Statham, who
Alex
captain
Statham,
for
yeah.
years. Ron Clark.
Yep.
Are there Nigel?
Ron
Nigel
Clark, yes.
something? Nigel Wilcox?
Nigel
He was
Clark,
later,
yeah.
wasn't he?
Yes, he was later, he was from there. But there were 3 young ones came in together, 15 to 16, and it was Arthur Wright, whose dad had the corner of Pearson Road at the garage, Arthur Forrest and George Stringer from Murfield. All those dads had garages and motor businesses, and they came in as 3 teenage lads, up and coming stars. Yeah.
There was a rider called Jerk Smith. I don't know whether he's mentioned, and he lived up the street from us, down in Barkren Road, up Binney Street, we call it, and he was one of the riders. Never actually spoke to him because I was a kid at the time.
And then there was Oliver Hart, but I think his own team was Bellevue, wasn't it? And he always, when he went round the corners, he used to go down on one knee, right round the corners. And he used to be, all his leathers were always worn.
The exhaust fumes weren't like ordinary motorbike and car fumes, it was like alcohol.
You used to come out with a smell up your nose the following day, didn't you?
But did you notice the different smell of the alcohol in the fuel?
Yes, it was a certain smell, wasn't it, that you got in there?
It used to rise up.
And of course, as I mentioned before, I remember the night Joe Abbott died.
Yes,
He came off just round that corner, back past the pits. He had a collision and came off. And apparently, it turned out afterwards, they said they knew he was dead on the track. But of course they didn't, and they carried him into the pits. And then they carried on racing. I think we'd only had 2 or 3 races to do. But they did that so that they could get him up to the first aid room without people knowing, because they didn't want everybody, you know, going while they carried him up. And then they gave it out at the end that he was dead.
Were you there?
Yes, yes, I saw it. I was stood just at the side of the pits.
Wow.
We were stood just at the side of the pits.
First bend.
First bend. Does anybody remember the Cossacks coming?
I do vaguely.
Yeah.
I was there, I was a youngster.
Yeah.
I remember them coming and doing all the fancy tricks, leaping on the horses either side. Tricks like that. There must have been about 20 of them.
That's 20
About
horses as well,
1950,
you know, over the field.
About 1950, they were there for us, I think.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Because we thought they were there in the late 30s.
Well, yes, they may have been, but I saw them in 1950.
Did you?
50s as well.
Yeah,
Very skilled horsemen they were.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think they around the... Sorry, go on.
What did you describe them as then?
It was very skilled
Skillful.
horsemen.
Sorry, I thought
Yeah.
you were frisky.
The teeth are missing.
Yeah.
Skilled.
They wore brown coats, full length coats, with like fur down either side.
Like the Afghan
And
coat.
brown hats, fur,
Right.
you know, typical.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And were they the only sort of thing on, or were there other...
As far as I can remember, they were.
Right, it was just them doing the things. Because when we got some film of the tennis that took place, and on one of the clips on there, it was advertising the Cossacks as coming then, and that was in 1939. But if there'd been another time as well, we keep finding different things that have happened at different times. We think something only happened once, and then somebody say, "Oh no, well, I remember this again," and it had a different era.
Well, I was 7 years old in 39, so
Right.
it must have been about that time when I was taken up there to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my memories are similar about the Harlem Globetrotters, because I was about 8 or 9 when they came. So I remember the skill of the Globetrotters.
Did anybody here see the Harlem Globetrotters?
The basketball.
Only on telly. Only on telly.
One thing that keeps cropping up that people tell us about is cricket at Odsal. Does anybody remember any of the
No,
cricket?
we have details of a Brian Sellers 11 playing in the Bradford League.
I think I remember it being
Like the
advertised,
whole-
but I didn't ever see it or
No.
anything.
Yeah.
Allegedly it was a really cold night, so it might put a lot of people off. It's good for Odsal.
Yeah. I think the first time the Globetrotters came, the first night was a bit of a washout then. It rained then. I must have gone on a different night because I don't remember it raining.
I once remember when well, I think it was in the 60s, and they played Australia, and it poured down there, it really got soaked. And I had this telegraph, and I was holding it over my head, watching it. And they really got the trouncing, It was about 50 yards something, And I thought, never again,
Yeah.
So who got the trouncing?
And the game was like really completely different. Really got soaked.
I know, but
It's a different
the
game.
Odsal players.
Yeah. How is it different?
Well, for instance, we'll take hooking. They even actually still call somebody a hooker.
Yeah.
Even today.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
No,
No such thing.
no, they don't hook the ball.
I mean, whoever puts that ball in, that team's going to get the ball. How can he simply give it to back man?
Yeah.
That wasn't allowed in rugby league. You had to put it in the middle. And the hooker had both had a hook and it were who got the ball.
That's right, yeah.
Completely different game.
You see,
They're
completely different.
What's
the better of the two?
Oh, I should say today, really, because it tended to be a bit boring. The fullbacks at that time, they'd kick the fullback again, and he'd kick it to other fullback. And then he'd kick it back.
I used to thought
And
that.
he got it back, and it went on and on, didn't it?
Intrigued that first
You
time.
know,
What the hell, when are going to
it all
start
seemed
playing, I thought.
pointless.
Oh, they're trying to get the other fullback to drop the ball.
It's a completely different game to what it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like rugby union. Mind you, I think rugby union is absolutely rubbish. Mind you, I think it's described as what it is. An hooligan's game played by gentlemen. I mean, I've never seen such a rubbishy game, in my opinion, as rugby union. Who can kick most out of each other?
The thing about rugby union is it's a continuous game. You don't have to stop when you tackle.
Well, but they're all
You don't
kicking the
stop,
bloody
you
thing
keep-
in the toes.
keep going.
What's that in aid of?
They do say, it has been said that rugby union is a game to play and rugby league is a game to watch. And I think that sums it up really. Because in union you keep going. I'm speaking as an ex-rugby union player, and my team was coached for 1 year, the year before I started with them, by Trevor Foster and Ernest Ward. And they're obviously on the lookout for local talent besides coaching.
No, did you Trevor Foster came to this, to this meeting? He came here anyway to give a talk.
Yes, he
Did
came to
Trevor Foster?
Litchfield, didn't he?
Because he was very interested, even when an old man is all his chairs at home. And his stories were really great. Because I went up to him afterwards, I said, how many at a 1947 team is there left then, Trevor? And I says, you're looking at him. And they're in him now, so they've all gone.
Yeah. Sadly.
They were very interesting.
Yeah, it was a
his
very...
stories.
Yeah.
Because he played rugby league and rugby union, of course, in rugby union originally.
Did he ever tell any stories about Odsal? Did he ever tell was any of his stories about Odsal, did he?
Oh, yeah, but all sorts of stuff. The best I thought he said was just that when they liberated Paris, they got a team together, did the authorities, England or Great Britain versus France in Paris. He said, and we played this match, in the main stadium. He says, and just when we come out second half, you could tell the atmosphere and the whole stadium had altered. It was different altogether. You could sense it. He said, and then all of a sudden, referee stopped match. They took us all off, put us in buses and took us back to the coast. And we said, what's it all about this? He says, Germans are coming back. They thought they were coming back.
But he told us about how he was first signed up, didn't he?
Yeah,
about
yeah,
going to
yeah.
the house for him.
Yeah,
Was
but
it,
his sister...
was it £400?
£400. He said he'd signed for Bradford Northern. This was before the war. And they promised him £400. And Harry Hornby, who was the chairman then at Bradford Northern, went down to Wales to sign him up and the £400 there in cash and put it on the table, and he come in and he said, I've changed my mind. He said, because I want to win a Welsh cap. So that Harry Hornby wasn't pleased at all. He says, you've had me trailing down here all this bloody way from Bradford and you've changed your mind. Oh, well, I want to win a Welsh cap. And his sister came in and Harry Hornby said to him, he's changed his mind. He wants to win a World Cup. She says, sign the bloody thing. She says, there's £400 there. She said, if you don't sign it and you play for, I think it was Newport somewhere, she said, you get your leg broken on Saturday, you've not lost the £400 you'll never get your bloody Welsh cap. Get it signed. So he said, I thought, well, I have to do what my sister tells me. So I
I was very interested.
I was, wasn't he? Yeah.
I think he was 90 off then.
He was when he came
91
here.
or 92 then. I think he died a couple of years later after he made the sea.
And he told all sorts of tales. He told a tale about Frank Whitcomb. Frank Whitcomb was a famous player at the time for Wales. And he was a big chap, he was fattish really, was Frank.
Yeah.
And he was a very strong man, you know.
Yeah.
And he said when they went to Australia just after the war to play against Australia, they went by aircraft carrier. And as they came back, they came through the Panama Canal. And he didn't turn up, didn't Whitcomb? And he was there and they were waiting, and of course boat weren't nearly sailing. When all of a sudden they got him staggering on, they were drunk. Got him staggering on the thing. He said he got arrested with police. He said policeman that arrested him, he said, you thought Frank Whitcomb were big, you didn't know what a big fella like this fella that arrested him was twice as big as him. Wow. He said he was twice as big. He says anyway, he says the manager of the team went down and they bribed him actually, they bribed the policeman. They gave him money to let him come up, to let him come back on ship. He said we never did tell his wife.
No, it was a bit of a character, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I just got it.
When you all went to Odsal, was it sort of a family affair, or was it specifically you'd go with your father or your friends, or was it, did everybody go? Who did you?
No,
Well, most, 3 or 4 of my brothers used to go every time, and then me and my sister used to go sometimes with them. Sometimes we stood with them, but sometimes wouldn't let us. But, you know, there were quite a few. And earlier, when I was younger, my mum and dad used to go. She used to go to Birch Lane, and then used to go to Odsal a bit. But then, of course, with having a big family, they couldn't go. But as my brothers grew up, they were all more into rugby than football. You know, they always went to Odsal.
Was it
There used to be
expensive?
about 3 or 4 of them every time.